Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump continues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? My mic was muted. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toadstool Sports. It is Friday, I believe, January 9th. Was it pass interference or wasn't it pass interference last night? I'm kind of mad that I did not give out a play on the over. I should start doing more totals, man. The over happened in that game. We did see Ole Miss get held to a lot of field goals in the game. So the game probably should have been higher scoring than that. But Miami also, like both teams probably could have scored more because Miami had that drive where they could have opened it up big time. They could have taken a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. They were close to scoring, and they threw an interception deep in Ole Miss territory. I think the only turnover of the game. That was wild as well. But I want to be correct about Miami. Maybe it was experience. Maybe it was coaching. I think they won the coaching battle, dude. And Miami's way better in the trenches as well. And their defense was pretty good enough. They usually have a good pass rush, which was not the case last night. But they were still dominating the line of scrimmage, especially offensively. And that's how Miami won the game. If you saw the time of possession battle, it was crazy. Like Miami had more than 40 minutes of possession time in the game. And I think Ole Miss was like under 20. So it was like Jim Harbaugh, like total domination of possession. Mario Cristobal, maybe people need to stop making fun of him, man, because I know he had those judgmental lapses, for lack of a better term, back in the day. Notably that fumble where they blew the game against Georgia Tech and whatever, which it had to do with his play calling late in the game. It wasn't just his players fucking up, but also, I mean, those kind of fuck-ups go to discipline anyway. But last night, his game plan was excellent. His whole game plan was, we know that we have the way better offensive line. Let's have long, sustained drives here and keep Ole Miss's offense off the field, because that's how they're going to beat us, is through their offense, obviously. And when their offense was on the field, they looked pretty good, but Miami's defense was really good when it mattered, like in the red zone and whatever. They held Ole Miss to a lot of field goals. Yeah, Ole Miss, I mean, their offense looked good. Chambliss is good. He's going to be in the NFL, man. Beck probably will be as well. Beck, not as talented of a quarterback, but was able to get the win. He used his legs to get that final touchdown, which maybe they scored too quickly. Gave Ole Miss a little bit too much time there, because Ole Miss is going to just chuck it, just air it out with not that much time left. And they did what they needed to do. They got like 40 yards on the first play probably, and then that set them up for a chance to attack the end zone basically from 35 yards out or whatever. Now people are complaining that it was a pass interference. I don't think so. The play was well defended. I mean, there was a lot of traffic in the end zone there, but if you saw the angle that you saw on TV, if you watch that replay, the wide receiver was pushing off first. He pushed off on the defender and kind of shoved him in the face mask, and then the defender kind of like also grabbed him after that. So it was jockeying on both sides, man. You don't want to decide a game on that. I think it was a correct no call in that one. Everybody kind of freaking out about it. But then on the other side of it, you have all these SEC haters loving the result. And I'm like, dude, like the SEC is still the most balanced conference. Like between best team and worst team, there's not like a huge gap there. Like they don't have any real bottom dwellers. And they're the only conference that's really better than them is the Big Ten. And that's because the top teams in the Big Ten are all better than the top teams in the SEC. But the bottom SEC teams are better than the bottom Big Ten teams. So I don't know. The SEC, everybody just hates the SEC because they always get that recognition, but they're still the second best conference right now. I don't think there's any debate about that. Oh, the ACC is better just because Miami's the one legitimate team in the ACC. Okay. I would not say that. The ACC is pretty much trash, and so is the Big 12. So, Kyle, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. No. It was 3-2 yesterday. Tyson, what's up, man? I started out 3-0, so it was looking like a really nice bounce back. We were correct with Campbell. They won by margin there. The numbers didn't really get that out of control either. They moved a bit in the morning, then they kind of stabilized. UT Martin, if you laid the points or if you played the money line, you got the win on that. They won by several in that game, so that worked out as well. I think they were losing the game maybe halfway through the game, but they, I believe, had a good second half. And then we won outright with Little Rock as well, so that was another winner. Then it got worse after that as the Dallas Mavericks did not come through. But for some reason, I don't even know what the reasoning was. Dallas went off like a 4 or 5 point favorite. I think it was 5. They went off like a 4.5 or 5 point favorite instead of a 7. So you could have gotten the better number on it, but they lost outright. And they were really never in position to cover that. So I thought it was a horrible spot for the Jazz. Like, I'm pretty surprised that Dallas wasn't winning a lot of the game and wasn't in position to do it. I don't know why the line dropped, though. Like, the only injury, like, status that was really in question there was Washington. Like, we already knew he wasn't going to play, though. So I don't really understand what happened with that line. But it is what it is. And then Pacific, that was more of a bullshit result, I think. Portland, they hit like 60% of their threes in the first half. And then all of a sudden you're like kind of screwed already because Portland's like +5 from 3-point range in the first half. That's not what you want. And they shot a ridiculous amount from the field. It's like their percentage was crazy from the field. So you're just off to a bad start. And the Pacific still had a chance to maybe do it. They were losing like all game, although they never were losing by a ton. They were just hanging around, but you need them to win as a favorite, obviously, in this case. Or at least win outright if you play them on the money line. The money line was like in the -150s. But they were able to stay in the game. Then they sent it into overtime. And then at that point, it's like, okay, well, maybe the better team will be able to do this. You know, just get the lead, have the lead at the end, and then get intentionally fouled and get over this number, man. But that was not what happened. I think they lost the game by a couple of points. I'm not happy about it, but we're going to move on to today. I'm going to give 4 plays out on the show today. I'm going to give out 2 college basketball and 2 NBA, and skipping the very light NHL board, and I will not have a play in the other college football playoff semifinal playoffs. I'm satisfied. I did well in the bowl season plus playoffs. I was 2-0 in the playoffs, and then got to be selective still, man. And then our only bowl loss was the New Mexico one. And I probably should have lost the San Diego State one, but I probably should have won the New Mexico one. So it balances out. The bowls plus playoffs, I think I went 6-1. So I'm pretty satisfied with that. Don't know if I'm going to wind up with a play on the championship game or not, but we will find out when it happens. Yeah, the 2 losses were, I don't know. I mean, Dallas lost outright, so they weren't really that close. I don't think Dallas was ever covering in that game. Pacific maybe wasn't either. I think Pacific had a 2-point lead in overtime, and that might have been their biggest lead. So, I don't know. But the Pacific one, like I said, it was completely thrown off almost right out of the gate because Portland was not missing any shots, and they were hitting a ridiculous amount of 3-pointers early, and there's just nothing you could do about that. When you run into a hot shooting team, everything gets thrown out the window. All right, let's go to today. College basketball is up first. We have what I'm used to seeing from a Friday college basketball card, we got a lot of MAAC games here, and I do have one play there, and then we do have a couple of large conference games. We got some MAC action as well, MACtion, and there's a lot of Horizon League play going on, and then one Mountain West game actually at night as well. Yeah, I'll talk about some of these games, and then we do have, there's a Big Ten, I think 2 Big Ten games if I'm not mistaken, right? Or no, only one, I guess. But I do have a play in that game as well. All right, there's an early-ish game at 6 p.m. on CBS Sports, which is an interesting one. Miami, Ohio, and Toledo at Toledo. This Miami, Ohio team, man, in the MAC, 16-0, and I still just don't buy it. I don't. Even though they beat Bowling Green on the road as an underdog, they won at home against Akron as an underdog. I mean, I'm not going to argue that Miami, Ohio is not one of the better teams in the MAC. Obviously, they are, but are they this good? I would say no. They had a really weak out-of-conference schedule. Again, at some point, this is all going to collapse. And again, we're looking at a number here where they might not cover. I believe they did not cover in their last game against Western Michigan, by the way. That was kind of a letdown spot for Miami off of Bowling Green and then Akron. Huge game there. So Miami, Ohio won and didn't cover last game against a pretty weak Western Michigan team. Now, I don't really want to fade Miami here just because this game is not really surrounded by anything big. Central Michigan next, so I can't really do it, although I might still lean to Toledo here. Toledo's coming off an easy win as well on the road against Northern Illinois, and they're coming back home. They actually kind of struggled last time at home, only getting by Western Michigan by 5. Now, Toledo's not really as, so the gap between these two teams is not as much as it looks like. Let's put it that way, which the odds makers are telling you because Toledo has actually flipped from a 2-point dog to a pick'em, maybe a slight favorite here now. I think the money is coming in at Toledo. If the public sees this game and they want early action, you know exactly what they're doing. If they want MACtion, you know they're going to take the 16-0 team here. Oh my God, it's pick the winner or I'm getting a point and a half almost here. It looks so easy to take Miami, Ohio. And I still think that they're one of the most overrated teams in college basketball. They face one of the weakest schedules in college basketball. Ken Bond probably has them way up high in the luck index still. Where are they at? He's got them 56th in luck, and he has them as the, whatever that is, the 12th weakest schedule in all of D1 basketball. So, again, that's not good. He has them outside of the top 100, and he probably does not have Toledo that far behind. He's got Toledo 160, not horrible. I'd lean to Toledo in the game, but I'm not going to try to step in front of Miami, Ohio unless there's a really good situation to do so. And I thought the situation might have been better in the previous 2 games to fade them, and that didn't happen. So I'm going to stay off of it, but that would be my opinion in that one. We do have, what other games do I even want to talk about here, man? I'm trying to remember what my thoughts were this morning on some of these games here. I mean, some of these MAC games are interesting. Yeah, I'll just give out my play. If you want me to talk about any of these other games, I can, but let's go to the best bets here. I don't think there's that much interesting to talk about in some of these other games here. I'm going to give you guys another one where it looks ridiculous and maybe looks kind of too easy to take the other side, but I am going to fade that sentiment. I'm going to give out Mount St. Mary's at a pick'em price here. This line is kind of all over the place. I see +1, +1.5 mostly, but it's +1.5, -120. So I'm I don't want to pay the -120 to get the +1. I don't know. I mean, it seems a little bit steep for the +1.5, although 1 point does kind of matter because, of course, if a team's trying to win, they'll be satisfied by winning by 1. But the pick'em was the best price that I found, I think, because it's literally just a pick'em price that I found. You can look at the money line market because the money line market is a little bit different from the spread market. I found this one in the spread market, but the money line market, the best I saw was -115, but you might be able to find something there. But anyway, we're going to fade St. Peter's here, the Peacocks. And first of all, nobody's going to want to do this. You have a 7-5 Peacocks team, which people might remember St. Peter's doing some damage in the tournament a few years back. They pulled off multiple upsets in that one tournament and ran all the way to the Elite 8 or something like that, where I think they ran into Garrett's North Carolina Tar Heels, if I remember correctly. So after St. Peter's upset Kentucky and Purdue, and maybe somebody else too. I'm pretty sure North Carolina was the team that ended them. And I think I won a play on it, too. I think that was a bet that I had. Well, I just kept betting until St. Peter's lost. So I think I lost money betting St. Peter's. I think I went 1-2 until they finally went down. That was the North Carolina matched up against Duke in the Final Four, I believe, that year. That was the year that North Carolina made that run as the 8th seed. I don't know. If I remember correctly, my bracket autism might be off a little bit. But anyway, people might remember that from St. Peter's. But people are going to look at this, and it's going to be obvious if the public plays this game. What are they going to do when they have a 7-5 team against a 5-11 team? You're basically going to pick the winner range here. Yeah, they're going to play St. Peter's here, and I'm going to say no. I'm going to say do the opposite. I got to get that up, man. Do the opposite. Fade the public. George, the opposite. If every instinct you have is wrong, then the opposite would have to be correct. St. Peter's is coming off a big win, man, which I believe I told you that I liked St. Peter's in this game. It wasn't a play for me, but they beat Marist by 10 at St. Peter's. Marist, I believe, was in a bad spot. Marist, one of the better teams in this conference right now, so a pretty nice underdog win for St. Peter's. Marist was coming off a close game against Quinnipiac, and they had Iona on deck. So, situation where it was a sandwich spot basically from Marist in that one. So that kind of explains why Marist lost that game. Now St. Peter's is coming off of that, and now it's St. Peter's that I think is in a sandwich spot. Nice win over Marist there. Now they play Mount St. Mary's. Are they really going to pay attention to Mount St. Mary's, who's got one conference win near the bottom of the conference? Probably not. And up next, St. Peter's has Merrimack in 2 days, and Merrimack is 5-0 in the conference. My Massachusetts boys, Merrimack. And then right after that, and 3 days after that, they have Quinnipiac, who is 4-1 in the conference. So those are the two main competition in the conference right now for St. Peter's. So I think this is a sandwich spot. It's sandwiched in between some of the top teams in the conference. For Mount St. Mary's, they're back at home here. They're coming off 2 road losses, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they lost by double digits at Merrimack and at Quinnipiac. But remember, again, those are 2 of the better teams in the conference right now. And back at home, Mount St. Mary's beat Iona the last time they were at home. So that's not a bad thing. And their other loss was at Marist. So Mount St. Mary's, really their only bad loss in conference was this home loss to Sacred Heart in the opener, which I don't know what that was. But their other losses are all pretty much against... Yeah, all the other 3 losses in conference are against like the top teams in the conference. So Mount St. Mary's probably more of a middle of the pack type of team in this conference. I'm going to expect them to be competitive here against St. Peter's. Looks like the money's coming in on St. Peter's, and I do not agree with it. St. Peter's has flipped from a 2-point dog to a pick 'em. So, all right, we're getting more value. You might get Mount St. Mary's as an underdog. Like I said, 50% of the tickets and 97% of the cash on St. Peter's, We're fading it, though. We're going to fade the market read in this one. I'm surprised that the market looks like this because this read for me is all a fade of St. Peter's. That's what we're going to do here. As far as looking at Ken Baum's numbers on this, because I show these when I give out a play. St. Peter's has faced a really weak schedule, 339th in the country. They're high in his luck index, too. That is not a good combination. When they haven't faced good competition and they're actually overperforming, 35th in Ken Baum's luck index, that's not good. And St. Peter's is outside of the top 300 on offense, so they are not a good scoring team at all. They're fine defensively at 179. So, yes, St. Peter's is the better defense here, but I don't think it's that significant, really. We're still going to do this, man. Mount St. Mary's is the better scoring. Well, actually, no, they're not the better scoring team. My mistake. Both teams are actually bad on offense and defense. Mount St. Mary's, unfortunately, is actually worse on both sides of the ball, but they actually play faster. So St. Peter's might be thrown off by having to play at a faster pace because St. Peter's plays slower. They're in the bottom third of tempo. Mount St. Mary's in the top third. And Mount St. Mary's has faced a somewhat less weak schedule at 241, and they're not as high in Ken Baum's luck index at 177. So we are at least, according to Ken Baum, fading an overperforming St. Peter's team that's in a bad spot. So Mount St. Mary's is the first play there. UNLV, what's up, man? Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for hanging out, man. All right. Niagara and Iona I'm going to talk about because Iona look at what they just did in their last game, man. They played at Marist. I mean, I know Marist is a solid team in this conference. Iona's usually one of the better teams in this conference. Iona lost that game 83-38, a palindrome. I mean, you can't really have a worse loss than that, even though that is to a decent team in the conference. But I expect Iona is going to be really, really angry about that. I think they're going to come out with a lot of focus after that. Nobody wants to lose like that. They don't have big games after this, really. I know they're facing a very pitiful Niagara team here, but Iona, I expect them to show up and win this game fairly easily. Niagara coming off a somewhat more competitive game against Fairfield. Fairfield, not the greatest team in this conference, though, so I don't know what to really take away from that. I think they're probably better than Niagara, although I'd have to check the power ratings there. But for me, if you actually want to play this game and actually have to play it, I would actually probably lay it with Iona. But it seems like the market disagrees with me again on that. 75% of the tickets and 70% of the cash on them, and they've already dropped from 13.5 to 10. I know it's a low total, 142, so that might be a concern if you want to lay points there. But I just don't see how Iona doesn't come out with some fire after that, and they should be able to beat a team that's definitely inferior to them. So even though, Niagara should show up for a game against Iona as well. But when the better team is like supremely focused, I tend to want to look that way. And then on the other side of it, you do have Marist at Sacred Heart. Marist coming off that huge win against Iona. Now they're going out on the road to face Sacred Heart. Now, if they had a bigger game up next, rather than facing the doormat of the conference, Rider is unbelievably bad. Absolute garbage. The worst team in the conference. One of the worst teams in all of D1. So that's unfortunate, because if Marist had really anybody else up next, I might be looking to maybe say you should fade them here. I think if you're going to play the game, you probably still should, because, again, huge win over Iona, 83-38. Makes Marist look probably too good. Sacred Heart is, I don't know, kind of a middle-of-the-pack team, sort of, in this conference here. They just lost at Niagara and at Canisius. Not really good results there for them. I'm expecting them to want to bounce back at home here. They lost their other home game against Merrimack, although Merrimack is pretty good in the conference. But when a team like Sacred Heart, when they were coming back from a couple of road games, and the last time they were at home, they lost. In college basketball, that is a decent spot to look for the home team. So I would take the points with Sacred Heart in this one if I was going to play it. It's a 6.5-point line in that one. Pretty low total in the 140s. I know a lot of these games are just crazy ugly. And then Northern Kentucky and Milwaukee kind of made me do a double take, because this is one of these games where the line is like, what? Like, what's going on here? Northern Kentucky 12-5 overall, 4-2 in the horizon, and then Milwaukee 7-9 overall, 3-2 in the horizon. Yet Milwaukee's a favorite of about 3 here. And if the public sees this, they're going to think, oh my God, that's a lot of value getting Northern Kentucky, the team with the better record, as an underdog here. And even I think that Northern Kentucky is one of the better teams in this conference, but the odds makers are telling you that there really isn't that much of a gap between these two teams, and maybe Northern Kentucky is the slightly better team here. And I always take notice of that, and I would probably lean to the favorite here, because it's almost like playing an unranked favorite against a ranked opponent, where it's like the line, the odds makers just disagree with, in this case, what the records look like. So there's some disparity there. Milwaukee's up from 2 to 3 here. If you look at KenPom, though, I'm like almost positive, as I bring up a new window here, I'm almost positive that he has Northern Kentucky is the better team, though. He's got them 193, although he has them facing a really weak schedule at 340th, very weak, and 40th in luck. So Northern Kentucky, kind of that St. Peter's type of profile there, except Northern Kentucky plays way faster, and they're better than St. Peter's. But he has KenPom has them as very overperformant, and against a weak schedule, whereas for Milwaukee, he does have Milwaukee as the worst of the two teams by whatever that is, probably about 40 ranking spots. But he does have Milwaukee as having faced the 117th strongest schedule, so much stronger strength of schedule. Has them in the middle of the pack in luck, and has them actually the better offense, I believe, but the worst defense. So a lot to keep in mind there. It is true that Northern Kentucky, I believe, based on what I just looked at, is the better defense getting points, though. So a lot of times I do want to look towards the better defense getting points. Don't want to play the game. I would still probably lean towards Milwaukee, though, because, again, it's that misleading line. Milwaukee's the more battle-tested team. Ken Baum is saying that Northern Kentucky's overperformed, so I won't disagree with that. Then we have CBS Sports getting the MAC today. After they have the Miami-Ohio game, they have Akron playing as well against Bowling Green. Actually, two pretty interesting MAC games here on CBS Sports. Akron, I still think, is probably the best team in the MAC, even though they're 2-1 in conference right now because they lost to Miami, Ohio. Akron just beat Central Michigan after that decent bounce back. I don't know if Akron covered that number. Probably not. They probably weren't a 13-point road favorite, but whatever. Or I mean, probably they did, excuse me. Probably Akron did cover that number. Now they're going on the road to Bowling Green. Bowling Green is a good defense, like one of the better defenses in the MAC. Bowling Green, though, they're coming off some really difficult games, man. And I know they're going to want to step it up for Akron, but this run of games, they lost at home as a favorite against Miami, Ohio. Then I guess debatably they bounced back from that, winning against UMass in what I believe was an overtime game where both teams scored over 100. Yeah, crazy game against UMass. They came off of that and they played Kent State. Both of these games on the road. Kent State, still one of the better teams in the MAC as well, undefeated in the conference right now. Bowling Green only lost to them by 3 on the road. So another really good performance. So the question is, how much do they have left in the tank? Because obviously Bowling Green will show up and try to win this game, but I worry about the situation being kind of difficult here where they've just played a ton of big games in a row, man. So that could definitely fatigue you and take a lot out of you. So that is kind of the worry here. I think if Bowling Green is going to fail at some point in this game, it's going to be when they tire out later in the game, especially because they're a team that plays intense defense. Akron's down from a 3.5-point favorite to a 3-point favorite, so the money is somewhat coming in on the Bowling Green side. Situationally, I don't totally agree with it, though, even though based on like the line does look kind of short. And in that case, maybe you'd want to look to Bowling Green. Of course, you're looking at, I believe, Bowling Green being the better defense at home, getting points as well, which is tempting as a better. But again, I don't like the spot that they're in. I would not be surprised if Akron was able to get past them and win that game and cover, and that might even be the way that I would lean in that game, but I really don't have a strong opinion on that. USC at Minnesota is my other play. We're going to have a play on this one. We're going to take USC plus the points, +4. I think at this point, the value has got to be there, man. I mean, I think USC is dealing with injuries, so that's part of the reason why the line is where it is, but still, Ken Baum has USC as the 47th ranked team, and he has Minnesota in the 80s, 85. So, like, how could Minnesota be laying more than home court, basically? Although Minnesota has a decent home court advantage, but I'm not going to buy it, though. Even though Ken Baum has USC as the 7th luckiest team in the country, which obviously I don't love. They face a really difficult schedule as well, the 34th most difficult schedule. And yes, USC likes to speed it up, so Minnesota's going to try to slow this thing to a crawl. But USC is much better offensively than Minnesota. USC is the more balanced team. Minnesota is the slightly better defensive team, but USC has there's a wide gap in how good the offenses are, and USC is the better offense. I know USC has overperformed. They were ranked to start the season. They shouldn't be ranked. Ken Baum's numbers have adjusted, so they're now 47th, but still, even with Minnesota looking decent in the conference so far, Ken Baum is still not buying it, and I'm also going to agree with that. Plus, I'm going to show you the situation in a second where I think it's a situation to fade Minnesota. Ken Baum does have Minnesota on the luckier side of his rankings as well, 121st. He's got them facing the 172nd strength of schedule, so kind of a mediocre, moderately strength schedule is the word I'm looking for. And he has them outside of the top 100 offensively, like I said. And that's maybe not a good recipe for laying points as a favorite, man. Minnesota, offensively challenged, and they're very slow in tempo, like bottom 25 in tempo. Not exactly what you want laying points, but it gets worse for Minnesota. This is on the Big Ten Network, by the way, at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Minnesota is coming off beating Iowa at home, a ranked Iowa team. That was a big win for Minnesota, man. A win against a ranked team as a dog. Huge win. Minnesota had a double-digit lead in the second half of that game. Blew the whole lead, and Iowa actually took the lead late. Iowa not going away in that game. And Minnesota was able to still get out of that thing with a win. I think it's going to be a letdown spot, man. I mean, I know it's USC, but it's kind of like, I don't know, USC is still this newcomer to the conference, and Minnesota has one of their rivals up next in Wisconsin. Even though I know Wisconsin is down a bit this year, they're still ahead of USC in the conference standings. It's definitely possible Minnesota does not bring their A game in this one. And they do have Illinois, Ohio State, Nebraska, and then Wisconsin again, all after USC. So I think this is kind of a flat spot in Minnesota's schedule, man. Whereas for USC, I expect them to show up. They've been struggling in conference play. There's no doubt about it. Their worst conference loss was at home against Washington. Washington, not a great team. It's not a great loss there for USC. But then USC has been on the road for the last 3 games, and I know 3 road games in a row is difficult, but they lost both games by 30 points, basically, and they were against the 2 Michigans, Michigan and Michigan State. Did you expect USC to win either of those games? I don't think so, although I expected them to maybe be more competitive, especially against the Michigan State team that doesn't score a ton. But USC was able to do nothing against Michigan State's defense, man. But I think USC is going to show up. You don't want to lose by 30, 29 points to anybody, man. So I think they show up. They're going to try to salvage the last game of the road trip here. I know USC, it's a weird venue to go to for USC and whatever because they haven't been in the Big Ten that long. So I know the venue unfamiliarity is there. But at least for them, they're already in this, in whatever it is, the central time zone here. They've been in this time zone for the last 2 games. So it's not like they're having to come out here from the Pacific Coast or anything like that. So I think they should be okay. They're adjusted here. I expect them to show up, and I'm questioning whether Minnesota will. And again, I think we're getting too much line value here too, even though I'm pretty sure USC, one of their best players, is injured still. But does that warrant the line being like this, being at 4 when USC is the better team? And I think Ken Baum might even have USC being the winner of this game at his projections. So that would be with their best player. But still, you're telling me that you're going to shift the line like maybe 4 points from where it should be or so. I think it's a little bit too far. Even with the injury, again, I think it should probably be at least a couple points off from where it is here. 67% of the tickets are on Minnesota, so Minnesota is the public side at this point. Who would have ever thought Minnesota would be a public side against USC when the season started? 64% of the cash, too, so the money looks like it is less so on Minnesota. So, yeah, we'll grab USC, where I think there's value, and it's a good spot to actually make that play. And then we do have CBS Sports has the Mountain West game late tonight, which is UNLV at Colorado State. It's not the best Mountain West matchup here. It's a mediocre matchup, I guess. USC is coming off getting crushed by Wyoming on the road by 32, so I'm kind of expecting a bounce back from UNLV after that. They do have Boise up next, but I don't think they're going to overlook Colorado State, who won the conference last year. And they might have been one of the teams. They might have knocked out UNLV from the tournament, actually. No, they did not. Utah State did. My mistake. So that is not really a factor. But, yeah, for UNLV, I forget what I was going to say because I was thinking I had something in my mind. There was a revenge aspect to some game that I totally forgot about yesterday, but I can't remember what it was. I think it was one of the plays that I had already given out, but I forget. Anyway, I think UNLV will show up. We know Colorado State won the conference last year, so won the conference tournament, so teams are going to be gunning for them a little bit for that reason. Even though, yeah, UNLV has Boise State up next, which is also a big game. Colorado State's coming off somewhat of a bigger game. They actually lost at home, though, to New Mexico, and I think Colorado State was probably a small favorite in that game, and they're staying at home, so I could see the argument that they'll bounce back as well, even though that was a more difficult game. They only have Fresno next, so they're probably not going to be looking ahead to that. Colorado State's a 6.5-point favorite. There was juice on it, it's gone up, from 6 with juice to 6.5. My mistake. Not really much of a move there, really, though. Total did drop to 148.5. I don't know. I'm probably leaning slightly towards UNLV plus the points there, but again, really no strong opinion there. Let's go to NHL. I got my Bruins hat on. I was wrong about them yesterday, but I'm glad to be wrong that they won the game, even with Korpisalo and net in somewhat of a bad spot, in a return home spot. They still won, so I'm happy with that. I was wrong about the other games, so yeah, my apologies. New Jersey looked like it was the sharp side against Pittsburgh. Don't know what happened in that one. So I suck, obviously. And then, I think I was wrong about a few of the other games as well. Today we only have 3 hockey games. Washington at Chicago is the first one. This game, Washington is coming into this, I think, in a positive spot. They did just play Dallas, but they lost 4-1 at home, and now they're going out on the road after a day off. I expect Washington to be focused here. A lot of times, again, when you're losing at home, it's good to just get out of there, go on the road. I know Dallas was a big opponent, but you lose 4-1 at home. I think you're going to show up in the next game. Plus, 2 games before that, they actually lost to Chicago at home in a shootout. So it's a quick kind of zigzag spot here for Washington to make some adjustments off of that loss. That game was close against Chicago. It probably shouldn't have been close. Washington is the better team. They'll be the favorite here on the road. Chicago, on the other hand, I mean, they're not exactly in a horrible spot here, but they've been, I think, overperforming again. As they've now won 4 games in a row. And yes, they overperformed in the last game with an over against St. Louis. 7-3, ridiculous. And that was after beating Dallas and then Washington and Vegas, both in overtime and shootout. So possibly this is the spot where maybe Chicago has some sort of flat spot here and the wheels come off a little bit. They shouldn't overlook Washington, but I think Washington sets up better in this game. It's a little bit of a focus spot for Washington and a spot where they can zigzag and readjust here. The money is all on the Washington side here as well. So the market indicator is strong on Washington. I do agree with it. Washington up from -145 to -147 on the money line. 66% of the money on them and 82% of the cash on Chicago. It looks like a pros versus Joes type of market, at least for now, where the Joes are taking Chicago. I guess because, if Chicago can beat them in Washington, then of course we can grab them as an underdog at home, right? That seems stupid. And Washington, I mean, is still the team with the better record, too. So, the records, the only reason the records are misleading is because Chicago's not as good as their record looks. So, yeah, I like Washington in that one. Although the spot's not bad enough for me to really do it for Chicago. But, again, Washington, after having that loss at home against Chicago, I think there is room for them to make some adjustments there. If you look at what happened in that game, Washington was the way more physical team in the game. But Chicago was kind of the better offense, so it kind of balanced out a little bit. We'll see what happens in that game. Garrett, what's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out last night, by the way, for my new episode of Bald with Clint Russell, Liberty Lockdown. He came back on the show to give his NFL predictions and whatever. He basically wound up with, well, you can go watch the show. Maybe I won't give it away. Go watch the show, and you can see what he wound up with as his Super Bowl matchup, which is significantly different from mine. We had a lot of differing opinions in that game, let's say, in the NFL playoffs, I should say, in all those games. Playoffs? What? So, yeah, go check that out. Garrett was in the chat last night. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Clint was like, who is this Garrett dumbass? Like, saying the Panthers are going to win everything. You took Miami last night. Yeah, they won. They covered the -3. They won. If you went money line, they won, obviously. It was a close call. The over was the easier cash in that game. But, yeah, I liked it because I had Miami in my, bowl pick'ems and whatever. But, yeah, I enjoyed it, and I like being right. Alexander, what's up, man? You want me to go back to – all right, I'll go back to college basketball. Hang on. Siena, I almost talked about that game. I don't really have much of an opinion on it, though. I don't want to mislead people. That's the thing. You guys want my opinion on it. I'll break it down, but I just don't know if I have much of a strong opinion. It is Merrimack at Siena. It's actually a good game. Merrimack 5-0 in conference versus Siena 3-1, although Siena has the better overall record. Merrimack probably faced a more difficult out-of-conference schedule than they did, I would imagine. They faced Auburn and Florida in here, and some pretty good mid-majors like Hofstra, South Dakota State. I almost keep saying San Diego State. Merrimack's been good since the conference started, man, but they've been beating up on the weaklings in the conference. They beat Rider at home, Fairfield at home, Mount St. Mary's at home, and Manhattan at home. Those are all sort of the bottom half into the middle of the conference, so they haven't faced any of the better teams in the conference so far. And, they won one game on the road as well, my mistake, against Sacred Heart, I believe, so... Yeah, so they have 5 conference wins, but they're all against weak teams in the conference, and only one of them is on the road. So they're having to step up in class for this game against Siena. This is going to be the most difficult conference game they've had so far. And for Siena, they do have one conference loss, but it was at Iona by 3. That is not a bad loss. Iona's fine. Other than that, they did face weaklings, though. They faced Canisius, Niagara at home, and then what was their other win? I don't even see it in here. Sometimes they play some earlier conference games, which makes it they beat Rider on the road. Who cares? That was their most recent win, though. It was a nice bounce back, at least, off of the Iona loss, where you would have expected maybe Siena was hung over a little bit. They probably covered the number against Rider, although I'm not entirely sure. But now Siena's a favorite at home here against Merrimack. Probably favored for a reason. Being back at home might be good for them after they've been on the road for a while, which is, again, different from the professional sports because there's no family life to get back to here. I'm going to lean to Siena in this game. Siena's down from 5.5 to 5 here, but the money looks like it is coming in on that side. 88% of the cash on them, 50% of the tickets on each side. It's a low total, though, so I worry about laying the points with a total in the 130s like that. Points are going to be harder to come by. Merrimack likes to play really slow, and I think Siena might as well. I'm used to that Siena team that ran the court like crazy with Rossiter and whatever. But yeah, this Siena team plays slow. Siena has faced a very weak overall schedule, though, one of the weakest in all of college basketball, which might be a little bit of a concern. But Ken Bum has Siena as the better team, as the odds makers also do, fairly significantly so, which is why Siena's favored here. And Ken Bum has Merrimack 4th in his luck index, and their strength of schedule has not been that much stronger either, and they play slow as well. So, slow-paced game, I usually want to look to take the points, but in this case, I think I would probably lay it. Again, Merrimack's having to step up in class here. Siena has faced at least one difficult conference opponent so far. Siena is kind of sneakily the better team right now if people are only going to look at conference records or whatever. So hopefully that's helpful for that one. It's almost making me want to play Siena. I guess I have somewhat of an opinion on it. Maybe I didn't break it down well enough when I first looked at the game, but I don't think it was going to make my card either way. But Siena would be my lean in that game. All right. Back to NHL, we have the Kings at the Jets. What sport is this? Kings-Jets. LA at Winnipeg here. The Kings are coming off a home loss to San Jose and now going out on the road here. Decent focus spot for the Kings, in my opinion. It was an overtime game, but you don't want to lose at home to San Jose. And the Kings had beaten Minnesota twice in a row before that, so could have been a bit of a letdown spot. Now they're going out on the road. Usually, first game out on the road, you're going to be focused. You want to kind of break that losing momentum there if you lost the last game at home as well. But they do have Edmonton tomorrow. And then Dallas, Vegas, Anaheim. So that's my issue with it. How focused are they really going to be on Winnipeg when Winnipeg's been a really struggling team and they have bigger games all on deck? So that's my concern, that it might be a bit of a look ahead. Because otherwise, I kind of like LA in this game. Winnipeg, they're coming off a couple of difficult games, man, including yesterday playing Edmonton to within 1 goal. And Winnipeg could have potentially won that game. Big game for Winnipeg, man, and they fell just short after on Tuesday taking Vegas into overtime. So Winnipeg's coming off 2 big games, playing a third game in 4 days, although all at home. But it's a difficult spot for them, man, where I think they might be a little bit fatigued here. I'm not going to say they're necessarily going to overlook the Kings, but I don't know what they're going to have in the tank for this one, man. The Kings are good on the road, 11-5-5, so they have a winning record, even including the overtime losses at home. Very competitive road team, actually better on the road than at home, as I've pointed out throughout the year. Winnipeg is not great either way. They have a losing record at home as well, even without the OT losses. So I think my opinion is the Kings in this game, but not a strong opinion, and the market disagrees with me. They're minus 125, 68% of the tickets, and 64% of the cash on the Kings. So that's the information on that one. My grandmother's Sharks? What do you mean by that? You mean they're not or they are? I have no idea what we mean here. They're a dangerous team. Yes, Celebrini, he's really good. I'm still not convinced by the Sharks. I don't know, man. I'm not convinced. The Sharks have some issues on the defensive side and whatever. I think they're an okay team, maybe, but the odds makers kind of tell you what you need to know to not let your eyes deceive you. The odds makers still have the Sharks as probably like a bottom several team, I would guess, in the NHL. And then the last game is St. Louis, talking about bottom teams in the NHL. Sorry to the Blues fans, singing the Blues. They're at Utah here. Utah is up from minus 160 to minus 175. Money is coming in on the Utah side. 58% of the tickets, 85% of the cash on them. St. Louis is coming up an ugly loss, though, to Chicago. So, I don't know. Do we really want to fade St. Louis in a spot like this? I'm not sure about that. They are having to travel into elevation, though, and they play Vegas tomorrow. They did beat Vegas back at home on January 2nd, a week ago, which is interesting. But coming off a 7-3 loss at Chicago, I kind of expect them to have some more focus in this one. For Utah, Utah is coming into this one on a decent roll here. They've won 3 of their last 4, winning the last 2 at home, including a return home spot win. Coming back from the East Coast, they beat Ottawa at home, so a decent win there. They only have Columbus up next, so I'm not really sure they're going to overlook St. Louis. It's not really a sandwich spot or anything like that, but I think I somewhat disagree with the market, honestly, in this one. I think maybe there's a little bit of value in St. Louis in that spot, but it's certainly not something I'm really interested in. All right, let's get to the NBA here. I feel like I need to do the typical sinus clearing, though. Give me a second. I'm going to have 2 plays in the NBA, though. If Saab is in here, you can probably guess what they are. One of them I absolutely love, and the other one I think is also good enough. Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on, the slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. With I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. I need intermission music, man. I need some different music here. All right, NBA. Let's go, man. Yeah, 2 of these games I do like. Let's see. First game up in the NBA is my Boston Celtics against Toronto. Toronto's coming into this after letting me down by only beating Charlotte by 1 and not covering the 1.5, when Charlotte was coming off that just monumental blowout upset at the Thunder. I don't know how we didn't get this one with Toronto. The market disagreed with Toronto, too, which made absolutely 0 sense to me. Toronto did not get it done, though. Now they're going to Boston after kind of a weak performance against Charlotte, so you got to expect Toronto will show up, although the Celtics have kind of had their number. The Celtics beat them at home Celtics beat them in Toronto, I should say, both times so far. But the last one was a pretty ugly loss for Toronto, 112-96, so Toronto might have some adjustments they'll make here. It's a little bit of a road revenge type of angle here where, again, revenge, you don't really want to call it revenge because revenge always gets overstated. It's not like the team is like, we're really angry at this team because they beat us. It's more that the team that won those games might get a little bit complacent playing that team again, and the team that lost or whatever, especially if it was an outlier, will be the team that knows, like, they'll have the adjustments to make, whereas the team that won also won't be able to make adjustments. So it's kind of like, it's the zigzag theory, basically, where I'm going to have a zigzag game today, by the way, so you probably know what it is. I don't do too many of them, but I do like this one. I'll explain that when I get to it. But the Celtics, they're coming up kind of blowing the game against Denver, man. It was a close game pretty much the whole way, but the Celtics led for more of the game. The Celtics had like a 9-point lead fairly late in the game. They blew it against a Jokic-less Denver, although Denver did have Aaron Gordon and what's his name? Murray. I forget which Murray is which. Murray and Gordon both played in the game, and they've both been dealing with injuries. And I expect they'll both play again today for Denver when we get to it. But Celtics, that was a tough game, man, and it ended a 4-game win streak for them. So I could see the Celtics maybe being in a bit of a hangover spot here, and they do play San Antonio tomorrow, which might draw more of their focus, even though it's an out-of-conference game. So I think I would probably have to lean Toronto in this game. Don't really have a strong opinion, though. The money is disagreeing. The money is coming in all on the Celtics, at least right now. Hopefully they win because I'm a fan of the Celtics. So hopefully, for my rooting purposes, hopefully they at least win. I don't care about the cover, though. Celtics up from 8.5 to 9 here. 97% of the cash on them. Tickets are evenly split. We'll see what happens in that game. I could see the argument that the Celtics could bounce back, though, from losing to Denver because the Celtics were a favorite at home by like 6 or 7 points in that game. Denver without Jokic. So the Celtics could debatably be in a bounce-back spot here, I guess. Although I don't quite see it that way because I think mentally you're still thinking that was a big game. It was Denver. Philadelphia at Orlando. I think we have about 10 NBA games today. NBA's usually got a good Friday board here. Philadelphia just beat Washington in a blowout at home. Now they're, I think, going to carry that momentum out on the road. So I think it's a fine spot for Philadelphia here. For Orlando, Orlando is coming off, I believe, a bad performance as well. Yeah, they barely got by Brooklyn on the road. In overtime, they got by Brooklyn after losing to Washington. So 2 really bad performances from Orlando. Now they're back at home. It was a quick road trip, though, only Tuesday, Wednesday, so I don't think it's really that full road trip return spot where, you get distracted by having to get back to home life and whatever. So I don't really think they fall into that category. They've played a lot of games recently, though, playing a 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities, 4th and 6th and 5th and 8th. It goes all the way back towards Christmas, too. They played a lot of games. This is going to be their 9th game since December 26th, I believe is what that is. It's a lot of games. So the rest spot is not exactly great for the Magic here. The money is coming in on the Magic, though. The Sixers are up to a 3-point favorite. 59% of the tickets are on them. 58% of the cash back on the Magic. So the market read right now is saying the Magic. I don't really have a strong opinion on it, so when I don't, usually I'll just kind of look at the market and try to read the market and see what's going on there. So I guess I'll agree with taking the points of the Magic, although I don't necessarily really like it. You got to look at what's going on with the injury situation as well, where for the Magic, well, it looks like Wagner, it's Franz Wagner, who's the one we want to look at here, and Suggs, they're both still out, it looks like, so they're not going to be back in this game. So there's no reverse injured player situation going on here. For the Sixers, Embiid is just a game-time decision in literally every game, so we'll see if he plays or not. Joel Embiid, I don't know. He has a bad knee. The Pelicans at Washington. This is hilarious because the Pelicans, I think they have the worst record in the NBA, right? At 8-31, 2-14 on the road. Washington's 10-26, which is not as bad, and 6-12 at home. Yet the Pelicans are a favorite in this game. So the odds makers are actually telling you Washington is worse than the Pelicans, which is insane. It looks like a misleading line. I mean, I don't think the public is going to want this game at all, but the line looks so misleading. It almost looks like the public would have to take the Wizards here as the underdog because I don't think they want to lay points with this Pelicans team, but the money looks like it is on the Wizards after the Pelicans went up to a 3-point favorite. 62% of tickets and 94% of the cash on the Wizards. I don't know, man. I don't know about that. Now, multiple things to consider in this game. Of course, we got to look at the situation. The Pelicans have lost a bunch of games in a row. I can't even count that many at this point. I think it's 9 or 10. They just lost at Atlanta by double digits. They should be focused because no team wants to lose like this. For Washington, I think Washington is coming off they're coming off a bad game as well. They lost to Philadelphia by 21 points. So both teams should be focused here. Now, there is the added question because there is the Trae Young trade that just happened, I believe, the night of the 7th. I think Wednesday night it happened. So Trae Young, for some reason, wanted to go to the Wizards. I mean, he must have really wanted out of Atlanta if he wants to go to the Wizards. I don't know what is up with that, but he got traded to the Wizards. I don't believe he's going to play tonight, but he's traded to the Wizards. So how is that going to affect the Wizards? I honestly have no clue. Like, are they going to be pumped because, hey, we're getting Trae Young here, we're getting a star player? Are they going to be confused? Like, is it going to be a positive and negative? And then if he plays, I actually think it's a negative in the first game because the team has, they haven't played with him, so they haven't developed any chemistry with him, and he hasn't played for a long time either, and he's been kind of a chemistry issue, a head case. So first time Trae Young plays for Washington, I think you actually want to look to fade them. Now, I don't think it's going to be in this game, but I guess we have to see if we could figure that out. There are a lot of guys on the injury report here on this side. Trae Young is listed on the injury report for Washington. A lot of guys on New Orleans listed on the injury report, but I don't think it's totally significant, though. Now, Trae Young, is he going to play? Let's see. He hasn't played since December 27th, and then he actually got traded for, CJ McCollum, and I don't know who Kispert is, but honestly, I kind of like McCollum. I think he's an under the radar. He's a good player. I think he might be older than Young, though. He probably is. But I don't know, man. I don't think that trade is bad for Atlanta, to be honest. I mean, I think even just Atlanta getting rid of Young, I think is addition by subtraction, really. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. If Young is going to play tonight, then I would be more tempted to fade the Wizards in this game. So, I don't know. You have to pay attention to it, I guess, to see if he is going to play. Because, again, I think I want to fade that when you have that new star there. Again, it's a jarring thing for the team's chemistry because it's like, well, is he going to try to take over the team when these other guys already have their roles and there's already going to be some guy who's kind of the leader of the team? It's going to be a weird situation, man. All right, we have Clippers at Brooklyn. Let's see. The Clippers, and by the way, I think I probably still lean to the Pelicans in that game, by the way. I don't know. I'm kind of going against the market percentages there. Or I am, I guess, for now at least. Clippers just got, I don't want to say destroyed, but they lost by 12 at the Knicks. I mean, that's not a horrible loss, really. Knicks are just the better team. Clippers staying in New York, going to Brooklyn, so it's an easy travel spot for the Clippers here. They do have Detroit tomorrow, though, so that might be a concern. It's a little bit of a look ahead to Detroit. Brooklyn coming off taking Orlando to overtime after beating Denver the game before that, which was a win for us on the show against Denver. I think that was the second game or third game maybe without Jokic. So we took Brooklyn in that one. It was a bad spot for Denver. Now, I think it's got to be a bad spot for Brooklyn now, though, off of those two big games. I think they might come up a little bit flat in this game. I think it's better for the Clippers staying in New York. The only issue is, are you going to consider it a sandwich spot because they played the Knicks last and they have Detroit next? I don't know. Like, I like to fade teams when they really put in a tough effort, but when they lost by double digits, I don't know. But actually, looking at the game flow here, the Clippers were winning this game in the third quarter. They fell apart in the fourth quarter. They were down double digits late in the game, so it wasn't really a game that went to the wire. So all of that, taking all of that into consideration, I would probably lean to the Clippers in this one. They're up from 3 to 4.5 here. 77% of tickets, 95% of the cash on the Clippers in that one. So the money is coming in on the Clippers. In agreement with me, OKC is at Memphis. OKC just had another lackluster performance after they had that atrocious blowout loss to the Hornets. I thought the Thunder were going to come out they were going to bring the Thunder. That's what I thought. And they almost lost again to Utah in overtime. They won at home. Maybe going out on the road for a game would be good for them. They're going out to Memphis. I don't know if they're going to overlook Memphis, although Memphis, I guess, is still looking for playoff revenge here, technically, because OKC knocked them out of the playoffs in the first round last year. Memphis has not beaten them in 2 tries this year, although OKC obviously is just a better team. There's no question about that. Now, Memphis is coming into this game of a blowout loss to Phoenix at home, so they should be focused as well. Focus spot kind of for both teams. I kind of like the Thunder here, but I don't know. They're up from 4.5 to 5, 90% of the tickets, 100% of the cash on them. That's not accurate, obviously, but they're going to be a public side, though the Thunder will be. But when it's a situation like this, and I expect both teams are going to kind of show up with some focus, I kind of lean towards the better team, although I know that's being factored into the line as well, so I don't love it, though. Definitely a stay away. Mr. Pinsley, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Yes, sir, Alexander, Mr. Route 66. Hell yeah. All right, next up is one of my plays, and hopefully we're going to get this one, man, because I like the spot here. We're going to talk about the other side of this trade here. We're going to take the Atlanta Hawks plus 1.5 against Denver. I think the public is only going to be wanting Denver in this game, man. It looks way too easy. Like a pick the winner price here. I would, try to grab the Hawks as an underdog here. 76% of the tickets, only 60% of the cash on the Nuggets, and the line is already moving against them, down from 1.5 to 1. So Jokic being out has really tanked the odds makers' numbers on the Nuggets here. The Nuggets, again, they still are dealing with like Aaron Gordon, questionable. Murray's questionable. I forget which one, but whichever one is the more significant, Murray. But all that being said, I think both of those guys probably play in this game, but I still like the Hawks here, man. I mean, again, first of all, it looks way too easy to take the Nuggets. Even without Jokic, the public just saw the Nuggets win at Boston. They're not going to have anything to do with an 18-21 Hawk team. Nuggets 25-12, but the Nuggets have not exactly been a force at home. They're 10-5 at home, which is fine. They've gotten a little bit better at home recently, but they haven't been great at home. The Hawks have actually been better on the road than at home. 11-10 on the road for the Hawks, so a positive road record, not bad for the Hawks. Now, one thing I also like for the Hawks is that trade that I just mentioned. Getting Trae Young out of there, I think, kind of gets like that burden off their back, you know what I mean? Because I think they've been playing with that question mark like over their heads the whole time, like what's going to happen with Trae Young. Now that they know he's gone, I think that's a positive now, because now it's like we know like who we are for the rest of the year. We're not going to have Trae Young. We know this. And yes, adding McCollum is going to maybe throw a wrench into some things. We don't know how he's going to fit in. He's a game time decision tonight. I don't know if he's going to play, man, because the trade happened Wednesday night. I guess we'll see. I'm hoping that if he plays, it'll be like a kind of in a limited capacity, because the only thing I'm worried about is what I just said about Trae Young as well, where a newcomer to the team that's like a big player might affect the chemistry negatively immediately, like until they get the chemistry, then they'll be better. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is going to benefit the Hawks a bit. Generally, this trade, and I still think it's a good thing because, again, it gets that question mark out of the way of what we're going to do with Trae Young, so I'm fine with it. Like, if McCollum plays, I still like this play because I don't think he's going to play in a huge capacity at the very least, but look at the spot that Denver is in, man. This is kind of the whole handicap, really, is that, but I think it is even better because my Atlanta has that, again, that like onus lifted off of them with the whole confusion with the Trae Young thing. But the spot is awful for Denver. They've been on the road since December 27th, like almost a 2-week road trip for Denver. Absolutely insane. And now they're finally coming back home from the East Coast, and they beat Boston in a comeback upset win without Jokic against the Celtics. Big win. They're coming back home. I just don't know if they're going to really have a whole lot of focus on the Hawks, man. An out-of-conference, below 500 team. The Nuggets have Milwaukee next. Could maybe be a look ahead just because Giannis is back, so maybe Milwaukee does attract more of your attention than Atlanta does. Milwaukee, they've been a playoff team the last couple of years. Atlanta kind of has, but not as good as Milwaukee. They haven't been as good as Milwaukee. So I hate the spot for Denver, though, just in general. Whether it's a look ahead to Milwaukee or not, it's at the very least a major distraction spot, I think, coming back home from that long road trip. Again, when you return home from a road trip, you can get distracted. There's a lot of stuff you might have to do back at home. These guys have families, whatever. Yeah, I think it's a really bad spot for Denver, plus maybe a letdown spot off of beating the Celtics. They're also playing, they're playing a third game in 5 days, so it's not exactly that jammed of a schedule, but it is a fourth in 6 days because they had a back-to-back on Sunday and Monday, and it is a fifth game in 8 days and a sixth game in 10 days as well. So they are still playing a pretty packed schedule here, so that's not great for Denver either. They're still without Jokic, of course. Atlanta coming into this one, I think it's a better spot for Atlanta. They just broke a 2-game loss streak with a win over New Orleans. They're not going to be overconfident after a win against New Orleans. That was at home in a weird single-game homestand. Now they're actually starting a road trip, and I talk about teams usually are focused to start the road trip, man, and they're coming off a win that's not going to make them overconfident, but it'll just give them a little bit of confidence. All right, we won a game against the Pelicans. Let's bring that out on the road. The Trae Young thing, again, is gone. They don't have to think about it anymore, so I think that's good. I think they're going to be focused. Everything for me pretty much lines up for me. Yeah, like everything for me lines up on the Hawks in this one. So that's the first NBA play that I have here. Plus 1.5 on the spread if the odds aren't terrible. What's the line? What's the 1.5? What's the juice on it? I mean, obviously, first of all, I recommend being at as many books as possible in your state or whatever, like having an account at all the books so you can line shop. But like if you're talking about having to lay like minus 120 to get the plus 1.5, I would probably start looking money line in that one and just play them to win the game. So that would probably be that would be the way that I would do it. Let me see. Like I found it just at a straight up plus 1.5 at minus 110 though. So that's the play that I'm recommending here. But let me see what the odds look like right now. Actually, yeah, I still see that like pretty abundant out there. I see a lot of books in Massachusetts, at least with plus 1.5, minus 110, plus 1, minus 110. Seems pretty abundant to me, but DraftKings is really screwing you on the plus 1.5. They're minus 122. DraftKings are being assholes with this line, but most of the rest of the books are treating you fairly well here. So, but if you don't find a good number there, money line I think makes sense. Like the money line prices all look pretty good. Like even money at DraftKings even. So if you want to screw DraftKings, if that's what you're talking about, don't take the plus 1.5 at minus 122. Just grab the money line at plus 100, which is what I see at DraftKings right now. So that's probably what I would do. And then I see all their money lines, minus 110, minus 105, minus 102 at FanDuel. Not horrible numbers there either. So hopefully that answer makes sense. All right, we have the Knicks at the Suns. Pretty interesting matchup. It's a good matchup. The Knicks coming off beating the Clippers and starting a road trip. That's a good sign, I think, for the Knicks. They had a 4-game losing streak. They broke that losing momentum with a win. That's not going to make them overconfident. Now they get to carry that momentum out on the road, the new momentum after breaking the losing momentum. It's a positive spot to me for the Knicks. They don't have a bigger game up next. I think they're going to be focused on the Suns. The Suns are actually the team that has the best record out of all the teams they're facing on the road trip. For the Suns, they're not exactly in a bad spot either, if I remember correctly. They're returning home from a road trip, but it was only Monday, Wednesday. They went to Houston. They did play a good game and barely lost. We took a loss in that game because Houston didn't cover in what I thought was a good spot for Houston. Phoenix got the win there. Phoenix then won at Memphis in pretty much a blowout by 19 points or whatever that is. Now, they are coming back home from that, but again, I don't think it's going to be a huge distraction spot or anything like that because it was a short road trip. Stuff doesn't really pile up to have to get done at home, and they're not going to overlook the Knicks, I wouldn't think. But all that being said, I think Phoenix, their last couple of performances were more impressive than the Knicks' performances were. The Knicks are a road favorite for a reason here, man. I kind of like the Knicks in this one, but the money is disagreeing. Like, I thought the Suns actually might wind up being a public home underdog in this game, which is really not what you want. Although they have 71% of the tickets, 93% of the cash on them right now. And the Knicks have dropped from a 2-point favorite to a 1-point favorite. I don't know. If both teams are healthy enough and whatever, and I think they're both in pretty good spots, I kind of like the Knicks here. The Knicks, the injury report is pretty clean, except Josh Hart is still out. For the Suns, Jalen Green is going to miss another game here. I think he's been out for a while, I'm pretty sure. But he's the more important player out of those two. Sacramento at Golden State is just crazy ugly. I mean, mostly because Sacramento's ugly, but Golden State's just an aging team that's not very good anymore. Sacramento's just been bad recently. They played a pretty competitive game against Dallas in their last game. Now they have a single road trip. They got a couple of days off, which might help because they've lost 6 games in a row, so having time off can help break that losing momentum. They're only taking a trip over to the Bay Area, a quick trip to Golden State. So I don't think it's really a negative spot for Sacramento here. Golden State just beat Milwaukee. Decent win I'm assuming Giannis was playing in that game, so a decent win for Golden State. They're staying at home. They don't really have anything up after this, though, so I don't think it's a terrible spot for Golden State here either. But you do have to lay a ton of points with Golden State here. 14-point favorite. The money's actually coming in on them. They've moved up from a 12-point favorite. 62% of tickets, 94% of the cash on the Warriors. You know, this Kings team, I mean, they have just been... I think they've been burning a lot of money for bettors recently. Like, they're not really covering numbers. They've covered a couple of times for me this season, but it was taking them in really good spots, and this is not exactly one of them. I don't know. I mean, my gut is to still kind of lean towards taking the points of the Kings, but they've just been getting their ass handed to them so much. I just can't do it, even though I know it's factored into the line. The line looks too high to me. Like, I think even though the money is coming in on Golden State, I think the line value might be on the Kings, but I just can't do it, man. The Kings are just such an injured team. They can't really do anything without Sabonis and Levine and whatever. Houston at Portland. This is my other play, by the way. This is the zigzag play. And I know it's not very often that I lay road favorites, although I think I'm probably going to do it more often in the NBA than most other sports. Well, sometimes I'll lay like a small road favorite in hockey, obviously a lot, like no problem there. But like a larger favorite, it's not going to happen very often other than NBA, where I think NBA is the sport that gives you the most opportunities to do it. In NBA, so many points get scored. When you're laying like a 6.5 point favorite here, which is what I'm going to do here, Houston minus 6.5. It's not like laying a touchdown in football where points are more to premium in football by far than they are in the NBA, obviously. We're going to lay it with Houston. 7 is somewhat of a key number. Teams stop intentionally fouling when they're down 3 possessions. But I think this is a zigzag spot. And I know we did lose with the favorite last night on the road, Dallas. Houston's a better team than Dallas, and I think the spot sets up well for Houston. This is a back-to-back, Houston at Portland. Same matchup as Wednesday, and in that game, I think Houston was about a 7-point favorite. So I think you might be getting a little bit of value on the number 2 because Portland won that game. So I consider that to be an outlier type of game. And when you dig into the box score, I think there are definitely reasons to see that as an outlier. And that's where you really want to come in and play the zigzag. You want to look at the box score and say, why did this score happen? And if it was something crazy like, oh, there was just this huge overperformance by Portland or something like that, some outlier that can easily be corrected, then you want to zigzag it. And that's what we're doing here. Or if like a sizable underdog won, it makes sense to kind of want to zigzag. Like, I think it makes sense to zigzag it. That was the case here. The better team is going to be the team that has the adjustments to make. I like being on a spot like that. Like, the zigzag is all about the team that way underperformed can make adjustments and fix things going into the next game, whereas the team that overperformed and played better, they don't have adjustments to make because they already did well. So I like all that. I like it maybe even better if it's the better team in the zigzag, although I know we're having to lay points here, but that is what we're doing here. And then I forget, what was the other thing I was going to say about that? Now, I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Now I don't remember what it was. I think that's basically about it. It's about the adjustments, and then if you look and see that this was an outlier situation as well. But the two situations are really when a sizable underdog won the first game outright, something like that, or when the game was just a complete blowout. Like if the favorite even blows the team out by a ridiculous margin, then maybe you want to zigzag it as well and look at the underdog to play a little bit better in the next game, and the favorite might just totally overlook them, whatever. But I think this is the preferable spot, actually, in the NBA. You're going with the better team after they lost. Houston lost by 1 point here. Now, what happened in this game is the question. Houston was a favorite. Like I said, they were probably about a 7-point favorite. They were leading most of the way early on in the game and then wound up failing later in the game. They wound up falling behind, and they couldn't catch up, and they lost the game later in the game. So that's what happened here. I wanted to look at the game flow real quick here. Yeah, it was actually, Houston never really had a huge margin here. My mistake. Portland was winning at halftime. My mistake. Portland was actually winning most of the games. That's my mistake. I was reading this wrong. I thought Houston was the red line. Screw ESPN, man. Why is Houston black and Portland red on this? It should be the opposite. But yeah, Portland had a good game, and they were winning most of the game. But look at what happened in this game, man. Houston dominated the rebounds, and we know Houston has a huge size advantage. Houston's the tallest lineup in the NBA. They had 19 more rebounds than the Blazers did in the game, and usually when you dominate the rebounds like that, you're going to win the game. Houston also had 99 field goal attempts to Portland's 83. So Houston had way more possessions. They were cleaning it up on the glass. How did Houston lose this game? Well, one thing is Houston shot horribly in the game. They shot 37% from the field, which is not usually what you're going to see from them, especially when they have big men that are dominating on the inside. Usually they're going to be just putting up a lot of they're going to be putting it in from close to the basket a lot. So I don't know what happened in that game. And then Houston also was really bad from three-point range. Though they're not exactly a three-point shooting team, but they were -4 in three-pointers, and they only shot 22%. So that wasn't good. And Houston was bad from the free throw line, 69%. So that hurt them as well slightly, although they actually still made one more free throw because they went to the line more. But still, there were some major outliers in this game. And I know Houston might not be the best free throw shooting team either because they're all big men. But major outliers as far as Houston is not going to shoot 37% again. There's going to be a huge positive regression there. And then, again, the other aspects of the game look like Houston should have won the game. They just had way more possessions, way more rebounds. And if they do that again and they're able to dominate like that again, they should be able to win this game by margin. So we'll lay it with Houston in this one. The money is all disagreeing with me on this one, man. It wasn't before I did the show. The money was on Houston. Now it's not, but I don't know what's going on. 59% of the tickets on Houston, 84% of the cash on the Blazers. Obviously, I do not agree. The total is low, though, at 221. I mean, it's low for an NBA game, so laying the points a little bit less. It's a little bit more questionable, I should say, when that's the case. But I like it, man. I think this is a classic zigzag spot here. And I'm not going to say I'm not going to say Portland's going to overlook Houston, but they did just beat Houston, and they do have the Knicks next, so I don't know, man. To me, it looks like a spot where Houston's going to show up and get the job done. So we're going to lay it with Houston. And then we do have the final game here is Milwaukee at the Lakers, which I believe is still the Lakers without Austin Reeves. Lakers struggling a bit here. Milwaukee just lost at Golden State, so they're already on the Pacific Coast at the very least. You know they're not going to overlook the Lakers. I mean, it's a big game whenever you play the Lakers. Giannis is back, so you do have that going for you with Milwaukee. He's been back for a while. Lakers, they're coming off a bigger game, man, against San Antonio, although got to be kind of a frustrating loss. It was close for a while. They wound up losing by 16, though, so the Lakers just, I think, ran out of steam later in the game there. I could see the argument that maybe it's a hangover spot for the Lakers after that, but I think they lost by too much. If the game went to the wire, I would be more inclined to say it's a hangover spot. They are returning over from a road trip, but it was only a quick Tuesday, Wednesday road trip, New Orleans, San Antonio. So I don't think it's one of those road trip returns where they're not going to be focused and whatever. Third game in 4 days, not great, all in different cities. You know, this is one where I'm probably going to just default to the market read here. The Lakers are getting the money, 80% of tickets, 99% of the cash on them. You know, I guess, I don't know, the argument is, well, I don't know. I mean, actually, I kind of want to disagree with it, man. I mean, the Lakers are still coming off, I think, a bigger game, a game against a better opponent, and with the slight road trip return. I kind of still actually disagree with that and lean towards the Bucks, but I don't want anything to do with that game. All right, and then finally we have college football, of course, which I think is why everybody's here, and that's why I save it for last. We have the other semifinal game in the college football playoffs, which is Oregon and Indiana, and I think these are the two best teams left. I think these are two of the top three teams in college football, in fact, with Ohio State being the other one. This is the Peach Bowl, so it's going to be in Atlanta, so the location not really a benefit to one team or the other. Indiana has gone down from a 4.5-point favorite to a 3.5-point favorite. They're kind of the public side, 71% of the tickets, but they seem to be getting some of the professional money as well. It's 77% of the cash. And, you know, I'd lean to Indiana here as well. I mean, it's a game where both teams are going to show up. I know Indiana looked really, really good, just crushing Alabama, but Alabama, it's like, I don't know. Everybody's just kind of saying, yeah, the SEC, they're not that great. Alabama didn't really belong here. Even after Alabama beat Oklahoma, I think people won't put that much weight into that at this point. And they're just going to look at what happened last game. And yeah, Indiana just, it was a blowout win for Indiana, but I was impressed by it, man. The fact that Indiana was able to dominate that much. I think Alabama's not a bad team at all. Like, I think they're a top probably 7 team in college football. And Indiana had that bye, the dreaded playoff bye. So that really showed me something where they're the only team since college football started doing this. Again, I pointed this out last night too. The last 2 years that college football has been doing this, every bye team is lost. Although I know last year 2 of the bye teams were those automatic conference winner bids, and probably they shouldn't have been the byes. This year they fixed that, so it was better teams with the byes, but Indiana was the only team that was able to overcome that layoff, and they did it also coming off the huge Big Ten championship win against Ohio State. So I was very impressed that Indiana was able to do that in a horrible spot. They totally dominated the game, man. I know Oregon is better than Alabama. Not going to deny that, but Indiana is the more balanced team still. They're really good on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. They're excellent in the trenches, which mattered last night. Miami was the better team in the trenches last night. That definitely matters when it comes down to these huge games here, these playoff games. Oregon, they can tend to have lapses a bit on defense at times. Their offense can kind of get a little bit more one-dimensional at times as well. Their win, I know we had Oregon. Oregon was one of my plays against Texas Tech. I just was not sold on Texas Tech at all. That was more about Oregon was the way more battle-tested team, experienced team. Oregon got the job done, but they weren't exactly impressive in doing so. It looks pretty good that they won 23-0, but if you dive into the box score of that game, I believe there were, I can bring it up right now. I believe there were some turnovers in the game and whatever. Let me see. Like, it wasn't exactly what it looked like, even though I want to say that my handicap was great in that game. I think it was fine. I mean, we still got the win, 23-0, so it's not like a game where I totally mishandicapped it or anything. Indiana absolutely dominated Alabama, and there's nothing misleading about that game. Oregon, their defense did really handle Texas Tech, though. Oregon, their defense showed up in this game. They outgained Texas Tech by almost 100 yards. Texas Tech was held to very few yards. So, yeah, Oregon did win the game, but it was exacerbated by Texas Tech 4 turnovers, including, I think, at least one where they were about to score. When they were down, I think Texas Tech was down, like, I want to say 16-7 or something, and they were about to score a touchdown, and they threw an interception at that point. So the game was a little bit misleading, although Oregon dominated the possession in the game or whatever. Yeah, Oregon's a good team. They were the better team in the game, no doubt about that. But I just think Oregon's going to struggle a bit more in this game, man, against Indiana. And yes, I know we do have a data point here where Indiana beat Oregon in Oregon earlier this season, which was Oregon's one loss. So I know it's going to be, Oregon's going to focus. Of course, it's one of those games where Oregon's going to have the game circled because you know who that one team that beat you was. But I don't think that matters. I mean, this is the playoff semifinal, man. It's not like either team is lacking in motivation here, so I don't think that's a big factor. Now, as far as Oregon might be able to make adjustments, yeah, I mean, that's definitely an argument because they lost by 10 at home to Indiana. Oregon was actually a 7-point favorite when this game happened, and the line has definitely moved quite a bit from that because if Oregon was a 7-point favorite there, that probably means they should be about a 3-point favorite on a neutral. But that was earlier in the season, man, and now the odds have adjusted such that Indiana is the 3.5-point favorite on a neutral. I would probably agree there's not a ton of line value left in Indiana. Like, I think you had to adjust the power ratings to some extent on these teams. Indiana is the better team, but I think the line probably should be 2.5 here. So I think it has been over-adjusted a little bit. I still would probably only lean to Indiana here, but it's not going to make my card or anything like that. If you look at what happened in this game between Indiana and Oregon, Indiana did win. I mean, it wasn't very misleading. Indiana did have a +1 turnover margin, but look at the stats here. Indiana outgained them 326-267, 23-14 in first downs. They won the time of possession battle by over 6 minutes, so there wasn't really anything misleading about Indiana's win in that game. So, yeah, I think Indiana is still the better team. That's the way I would lean in the game if I was going to play it, but it is also a low total, so laying the points is a little bit less advantageous to you if you do it in a low total game like this. The spread's not very high. Total went up from 47.5 to 49. 71% of tickets on the over, 81% of the cash on the over. Money coming in on the over for now, but I don't know, because what is the public going to think? Because they saw Oregon put up 23, which isn't that impressive in the last game. They saw Indiana put up whatever it was, 38 maybe or whatever against Alabama, whatever it was. So Indiana's offense looked really good, and usually the public is going to go with the offense rather than what that team did defensively. Both teams have pretty decent defenses, though, so I'm kind of thinking, and the cash is coming in more in Indiana for now, by the way, although we'll see what happens later in the day. I don't know, I'm kind of thinking under in this game, though. I mean, it's a playoff game, that type of atmosphere. I know I liked the over last night, but when you have two teams that are actually pretty solid defensively, I think the defenses actually win out. So I could see this being kind of a slugfest and big bodies banging and kind of more of a defensive-minded game here. So I wouldn't really disagree with an under in this one. In the previous game, like we said, it got to 50 points. So the public might see that and go, oh, then I'll go over 49. But that might not be the approach here. But again, no play for me in this game. And yes, where's the bit here?
True Blood and Joseph. That's a very physical. I love watching plays like that. I know you like all those bubble screens and 300.
That's right. That's right.
I love to see big bodies bang.
Love to see big bodies bang. There you go. But yeah, I think that's pretty much my breakdown on this. I think Indiana wins out just because they have more balance. I think they're actually probably the slightly better team on both sides of the ball, even though both teams are good. I think there was a wider margin in the gap between the two defenses, even though Oregon's defense looked good in the last game. And again, the trenches does matter, and people tend to overlook that. Indiana has very good lines on both sides as well. So, yeah, man, and they just look like they're on a mission at this point, too. I mean, Kurt Cignetti is not letting up. He's serious the whole time, so he's got this team focused, man. Even when they're blowing out Alabama, he just looks pissed on the sidelines. And his team, if you saw them on the sidelines, the team wasn't celebrating. Like, it was just, we have a job to do, man. So, yeah, to me, it looks like that's the case with Indiana. This is also interesting because of the quarterback matchup. The quarterbacks are expected to go 1 and 2 in the NFL draft, which is, of course, Mendoza for Indiana and Moore for Oregon. Mendoza has a little bit more experience, although neither team has experience in a college football semifinal, of course. Neither quarterback does, but Mendoza's been in college football for longer than Moore, I believe. At least I knew maybe it's just because I knew his name years ago, whereas I didn't know Moore's name. I don't know, but whatever the case, that's my breakdown of the game. Slight leans towards Indiana minus the points and under, but I'm not jumping out of my seat to play this game, man. I don't want to force anything. I know it's a huge game. It's going to be a highly televised game. You know, if you want to do it for like pizza money, whatever, put a little bit of money on it. I mean, that would be kind of the way that I would do it, but that's going to do it, man. I appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me as usual. The actual plays today that we have are in college basketball. We have Mount St. Mary's, Pick'em. We got USC plus the points. NBA, we have the Hawks plus the points or money line. I like it. And then Houston minus the points, the Rockets, which it looks like the Market Reed is going against. The Market Reed doesn't like these favorites, man. What's going on? I think it's a good spot. It's a zigzag. So that's what we're going to do. I think that's probably my least favorite of the plays, but maybe that means it's going to win. I appreciate it, everybody. Hopefully Jeffrey's all right. I don't think I saw him this morning. I don't know where he is right now. He might have run out of money again. He needs to go make more money to bet more. Go to Buffalo Wild Wings. Need some more money for wings and beer. All right, that's going to do it. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Go check that out. Of course, subscribe to the channel here. Give me a good comment here. Go check out Bald that I did with Clint last night on the channel here. Breaking down the college football playoff. We did an hour last night. So thanks to Clint for coming on again. Listen on audio as well. I got to put that one up on audio as well. I haven't done that yet. I put up the bracket one on audio already, though. It's more of a visual thing. My solo bracket one, is already up there. And, of course, the playoffs start tomorrow, man. There's a lot going on here. Playoffs. But, yes, go check that out. Go check this show out on audio, Apple, Spotify. Good reviews help me. Listening helps me. My numbers finally did not increase from week to week after increasing every week to week. Now I'm decreasing from between the last couple of weeks. Maybe it'll bump it back up again during the NFL playoffs, man, and the college football playoffs going on. It's got to do it. We got to get it. Then I do have my Covered in Ukulele channel here on YouTube as well. I know I haven't been doing as much ukulele stuff. I got to get more of it done. I know I have requests sitting in the backlog that I got to do. At least I got to do probably one more of Charles's, and then I got I got to do one of that other guy that gave me requests. Got to do it. Then we got patreon.com/LearnToToad if you want to just throw me some support. It does help me out because I don't have any other income right now besides all this. So I got to free up my money so that I can actually bet again and have liquid money, and then maybe I can actually become an actual professional because I've only been semi-professional the whole time, doing it as like a side hustle. And since I got fired, as I've pointed out on the show multiple times, I'm giving you all these picks, and I'm glad that it's been really good because then otherwise people would call me a fraud or some bullshit. But I've not been betting since then because I have not had liquid money to do it, which I pointed out as soon as it happened. I've been saying that since then, but that is the case. So whether you want to listen to me or not, I don't know. I'm just being honest. I give out every single one of my plays as if I were betting them anyway. So that's how we're doing it. And then Loser Cast, you get to check that out as well. I don't know if there was an episode last night or not. If there was, I wasn't on it, but that's the new comedy panel podcast that I'm on. And I think that's it. I'll be back tonight, I assume, because I got to do the Saturday college basketball show, which I'm going to do Friday night. It is a major grind, man, trying to get through like over 100 games or so, trying to handicap. And I do like some pretty quick handicapping. Like I'm looking at situations and I'll just like, it's like being quick to fold in poker. Like when you get dealt the deuce 7, whatever, don't even care. Throw it away. I do a lot of that in the handicapping too. Like I'll eye a game and I'm just like, nope, there's no angle here, and just toss it. So then I'm trying to identify the games where I do have the angles, which helps me get through it all and be selective. I mean, you got to have some sort of methodology to it because you can't do a deep dive into every game, So that's how I do it. It has worked for me, so whatever. So college basketball, that'll be tonight. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to start talking the NFL playoffs because we'll have NFL playoff games tomorrow. I think 2 games tomorrow, is it? And then 3 on Sunday. I believe that's right. And then 1 on Monday. I think that's how they do it. I forget. We'll be back then to talk about it. I don't know what my plays are going to be yet. I have some idea of what I'm going to do with the NFL, but we'll see. I'm not going to be that heavy with the NFL bets. I mean, if you followed me last year, I wasn't that heavy with them either, but I had I think I had basically like 1 in each round pretty much. It's kind of the standard. And then Super Bowl, I just had props last year, but every single one of them won. So I didn't have a great feel for the side or total in the Super Bowl last year, but the props were nice. So that's going to do it for now. I appreciate it, guys. I'll be back tonight. College basketball show. Peace.